All right, hello, back at Hustler, and clearly a little late because everyone's already here behind me, but currently lost my last 3 sessions in cash, but the road to a million continues. Can't go 0-4 possibly, right? Time to find out.
The stakes are 10, 20, 40, sitting with a $20,000 max buy-in. And we're going to go exactly with that, buying in for the maximum. And let's get the cards in the air and let's get this poker show rolling. The first hand, there's an under the gun player who limps in for $40. I see 9-7 offsuit on the button. And hey, it's the year that I was born, one of my favorite hands to play. So how can I ever fold? I make the call for 40 as well. Florence in the big blind decides to raise it up to $450. Zio makes the call. Eddie calls. And once again, how can I ever fold the year of my birth? I'm in there as well to see a flop. And we got a flop of King 8, 6, 2 spades. Got me an open ender here. And Flo throws out a bet of $150. Everyone folds to me. And well, got the straight draw. I make the call. Turn comes the Queen of Diamonds. And once again, my opponent fires for $300. And thinking that this is a really great price to continue. Very small bet compared to the size of the pot. I call once again and see the river bank 10 of clubs. Now that I hit my straight, my opponent fires out for $1,500. And I think this is a little interesting. All things considered, I'm sitting with the third nuts and I'm trying my best to figure out how can I get the maximum. I hope my opponent can have a hand like pocket kings, but not really sure what else can call like an all-ins. So I decided to make a very small raise of $4,000, hoping that like one pair could call, like ace king, ace queen, hands like that don't want to believe me. But now my opponent jams and goes all in. Wow. At first, I didn't know how much money my opponent had. I thought this was like about an $8,000 jam, but when I get an official count of only like $6,200, okay, how can I ever fold the third nuts? I've been losing piles over the past few times and months that I've been playing poker, so maybe just a little bit scared and seeing monsters under the bed, but it feels like I'm net rolling, but I do end up making the call with my straight, and I see the good news that you guys saw on screen, but really, it feels bad to take so much time when I obviously have the winner against pocket aces. So looks like my opponent and I were on different wavelengths in this hand. She was happy to commit her stack with one pair, and I didn't want to be all in with a straight. I'd certainly say I blundered more than my opponent in this hand. At least I get to scoop up the chips from the last pot, and here in the next spot, when early position player calls $40, I see 6-7 suited and raise it up to $220. Neck on the button makes the call, and early position player calls as well, so off to a flop of ace, ace, 10, 2 spades. Hitting the flush draw is pretty cool here, but just with 7 high, I decided to check to Nick, who's in position, and he fires out $400. One opponent gets out of the way, and here I'm happy to make the call. I don't think raising is super necessary. We're already heads up, and I've only got 7 high. When the turn comes a 6, now I have a pair and flush draw, which is pretty cool. But action goes check, check, so no money goes in. On the river ace, well, I've got a full house, but I'm not really sure if there's any value in betting this spot. I don't think Nick is ever going to be calling with worse hands than a 6 here, so I decided to check it to him, and then he fires out $1,200. And now I'm in a pretty weird spot with not so great of a hand, I don't think, in my opinion. Bluff Tucci is in the house here, and he ends up actually getting me to fold my full house. So well played by my opponent. He's owning me so far the last few times I've been on Hustler, and he looks like he's playing pretty well and got the bluff through. About 30 minutes goes by, and we see another early position player who calls $40. I see 8-7 suited from the low position, and once again, I'm going to raise it up to $220. This time, we get multiple people to call the small blind, straddler, and limper, so 4 ways to a flop we go of ace, 8, deuce, 2 hearts, and a diamond. I've got middle pair here. Don't think I really want to commit much more money in the middle, especially multi-way, so action checks through. But the turn comes the 7 of diamonds, bringing in 2 flush draws, and the small blind decides to lead out for a half pot, around $420. Ronnie makes the call here, and now I think my hand must be good, but very vulnerable as well, with just middle 2 pair on a draw heavy board. So maybe if the small blind were to bet bigger, I would think you have like ace 8 or ace 7, but here I decided to go for a raise to $1,500. Once again, got to get value from lots of draws and maybe even one pair of aces that would call multi-way. Anyways, the small blind makes the call and Ronnie makes the call. Oh my God, this pot is building here and we've got action. So 3 ways to a river, and it comes in offsuit 6. Action quickly checks through. I don't think this is a card that I want to put much more money in the middle now. And when everyone shows over their cards, it's nice to see the 2 pair wins. So nice that my hand will hold on a scary board. Unfortunate that I didn't get much more value on the river, seeing a somewhat scary card.
Hey guys, I've recently gotten really into sports betting, and with the NFL season right around the corner, I feel like there's no better sport to watch and bet on at the same time and get excited about. So I want to tell you guys about a company I've been working really closely with called OddsJam. They're a data-driven sports betting software that tracks over 200 different sports books to find profitable betting opportunities. So one method of sports betting I've been experimenting with is called arbitrage. Arbitrage betting is a risk-free way to guarantee a profit regardless of the outcome of the actual bet. All right, so let's say a hypothetical example here. I am a famous golfer that people want to bet on, even though I'm really bad. Anyways, let's say DraftKings gives me plus 150 odds to hit this 5-foot putt, and Caesars has minus 110 for me to miss this putt. So in this hypothetical example, we would put $500 on DraftKings for me to hit the putt, 500 to win 750. And on Caesars, for me to miss the putt, we'll put 660 to win 600. And in total, we'll have 1160 invested into this bet, whether I miss or make the putt. So one of the outcomes is that I hit this putt, so I cashed the DraftKings bet of 500. So the total payout would have been 1250, and we totally invested in the beginning 1160, which means we auto profit $90 if I hit the putt. And now second outcome is that I missed the putt. That means that we would have lost the DraftKings bet and won the Caesars bet. So we would have total payout would have been 1260, which would have been a profit of $100 there. So this is one of the many examples they have in real life sports like NFL, NBA. This is just an example of how you can win on both sides in arbitrage betting. So I've had a lot of success betting this way through the help of OddsJam and using their software. So if you want to check out the software, there's a 35% off first month discount if you sign up, and a 7-day free trial as well. If you use the code Rampage or click the link in the description below. Thank you to OddsJam for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to the video.
So about 2 hours into the stream, we're up about $11,000. So things are going pretty smoothly, and hopefully it stays this way. In the next hand, we got another limper from early position, a cutoff raise of 300, and I see ace king from the blinds. And I think this is a real perfect spot to re-raise in my perspective. So I make it $1,400 and I get the cutoff to call. So we're going to be out of position in this one in a 3-bet pot of ace jack 7 rainbow. Here on a flop like this, hitting my ace king, I think my opponent also has been a little bit aggressive in this session. So I decided to go for a really small bet of 10% pot of $300. Maybe this could induce him to raise. And well, he does indeed put in a raise to $2,000. And all right, maybe the trap has ensued. Let's find out how far my opponent wants to take this bluff. I'm hoping he's bluffing here with. I call the 2,000 total, and the turn comes in 8 of clubs. Doesn't change a whole lot besides 10-9 being a straight. I check it to my opponent and he fires out 4,000. Of course, never going to be folding here, but we might be playing one of the biggest pots of the night so far. So I make the call, and the river comes a 5. And this time, this is for sure a brick, and action quickly goes check, check, and we end up actually chopping it up. You already saw it on screen. A little bit of a boring pot, but hey, I guess it's never bad to not lose money, although I really wanted to win this pot, of course, as this was the biggest pot of the night that we've played so far. About an hour or so goes by playing a bunch of small pots, and we arrive onto this spot. There's an $80 straddle on, the game is building, and there's a cutoff raise to $160. I decided to not 3-bet and call the ace-4 suited on the button here, and now the straddler 3-bets to 480. The cutoff makes the call for 480, and how can I ever fold a suited wheel ace, you know? Seems like a fun hand to play, so I make the call as well, and we see a flop of ace 10 3 2 hearts. Action checks it to me, surprisingly, and here's one of the issues of playing some bad aces is that I don't really want to put much money in the middle right now, so I don't see the incentive of betting, even though I'm in position and I have top pair. I check this one. Turn comes the 9 of spades, and now Eddie fires out $1,000. The cutoff makes the call, which is a really interesting spot, seeing interest from both players, and I mean, how nitty would I look if I was going to fold top pair in this spot? I'm going to call, of course. How could I ever fold? So we're going to have a 3-way still to a river, which the pot is building once again. And the river comes a board pairing 3, which is an amazing card. Now my 4 kicker doesn't play, and I have a 10 as kicker instead with top pair. Eddie checks it over to the cutoff player, and the player on my right fires out $1,050. I think I have a pretty easy call in my spot, although I don't expect to win too often. Still think maybe top pair could chop it up a lot of the time, but Anyways, it's good news to see that my opponent was indeed bluffing. So winning a 6K pot here, getting the chips pushed my way, it's a very, very lovely start to the session. About 3.5, 4 hours into the session, I'm up about $6,000, so nothing to complain about here. Action is picking up clearly in this game as the night's winding down, and we see the cutoff raising to 300. I'm in the blinds with ace 10 suited, and I raise it up to 1400, thinking it's a pretty good hand to put some more money in the middle. My opponent ends up making the call, so once again, seeing another 3-bet pot, but this time the flop comes ace 5 deuce 2 spades. Very interesting spot here, flopping top pair with a bunch of wheel cards along with it. I start off with a check here with as good of a hand as I could ask for. But my opponent fires almost the size of the pot for 2,500. Here, a little bit confused about the big sizing. I don't expect my opponent to show up with too many strong hands on this board. But as played, of course, with ace 10, I have a pretty easy decision. I decide to make the call and see what develops. Well, the turn comes the 9 of spades, and the flush comes in. Overall, seems like a really bad card for me, and I check it to my opponent, and now he fires out 4,000. Down betting from his original, like, almost pot size bet on the flop, now going closer to, like, half pots. And I'm just in a really tough spot. I mean, am I just always beat here when my opponent fires again on the spade? But, like, I'm just trying to figure out how I'm even beat, to be honest. Does my opponent just have 2 pair somehow, or does he have a flush? Hard to believe that my opponent can have really any 2 pair here, or even a flush as played, just because of how much he bet on the flop, but I don't know. Do I really think my opponent is ever bluffing in this spot for $4,000 playing a 10, 20, 40 game? Anyways, I'm kind of in between tossing and turning between calling and folding, but I decided to let this one go and move on to the next spot. Very, very unsure the moment I folded whether I got bluffed or not. It's pretty hard to play against opponents who you don't have any history with. And one of the last hands of the night, I got a few players who limp it over to me, and I've got ace jack suited on the button, and I've raised it up to $420. You guys know, I just had to, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to make it 420. Anyways, we get pretty much the entire table to call, and I don't know, maybe I guess there's an invite to other opponents from the rest of the tables in Hustler Casino to come along and call as well. I don't know, 14 ways to a flop we go of 8, 8, 7, 2 spades, and a heart. Action checks at me. I've clearly got not a whole lot going for my hand, but time to take a stab at it. Cheap way to hopefully get a bluff through. I bet $400, and I get 2 opponents around to make the call. I guess now it's time to shut things down unless maybe there's a heart on the turn. Turn? No, it doesn't give me that hope. So action's going to go check, check, check. I am completely done with putting any money in the middle. I give up. River doesn't change the board either. It goes check, check, check once again. And I have the worst hand in this spot, of course, showing up in last place. But Trips is going to win it to the opponent to my right. So nice hand to him.
All right, wrapping things up here at Hustler. Stream just ended, and I was in the game for $20,000 today. I won $8,500, so progressing forward in CB, road to $1 million. So thanks so much for watching, and making progress is good. And kind of bouncing back from last video. I'll see you guys next time. Later.